with all your information that you've been able to arm yourself with through all this research, I'm just interested, like, if you had to give some advice right now to parents who have young kids who are having behavioral issues, and maybe they're just not fully aware of how what we eat or what we're exposed to can affect those behaviors. What are some product swaps that you think every family should like make immediately, that you should say, hey, wake up, be aware of this. You can do this instead. And we'd love to hear your recommendations on this.
Yeah, so the most important thing you can do is to get into the habit of reading labels on everything from foods to products that you wash your hands with and soaps and detergents. Just start reading labels because synthetic dyes and other chemicals creep into places that you wouldn't expect. And so we have created on our page, todieforthedocumentary.com/resources. I've created tons of resources for families that are getting started. So if you are looking at synthetic dyes, I have a blog that will walk you through, the steps you can take to go through your pantry, go through your kitchen cabinets, your toothpaste and your soaps and things like that, and then products that you can swap with that. I would say if you have it in the budget, and if you have an Aldi or a Trader Joe's, those can be really cost-effective ways to purchase products on a budget. But if you can buy products that are organic, you're bypassing a lot of issues. And by nature, synthetic dyes cannot be in something organic because synthetic dyes are a man-made chemical, a byproduct of petroleum. So it cannot be, organically found in nature. So switching to organic foods, that's a really great option, especially for like processed foods and snacks. But more than anything, the more whole foods you're adding into your child's diet, the more whole foods that you're eating, you're really just avoiding so much. And so we always like to encourage people to start reading labels, obviously, but then also incorporating like real foods into your diet. Get into the habit of after snack instead of a processed granola bar, giving them fresh fruit and peanut butter and like real foods. And so and that's not to say that you can't ever have like this processed food. Like you can have a good life and a fun life, and our children do not go without the fun and the celebrations, and we just do it in a different way. And if your child is in public school, I would say the best advice I can give you is to create a swap box for parties, because every single child in your child's classroom is going to want to have a party. That's what we've decided,
Birthday
in a
party.
birthday party. And so you're going to need the Cheeto swaps. You're going to need frozen cupcakes in the freezer so that the teacher can pull them out whenever they have a party, or a frozen dessert, uh, and like the candy swaps and things like that. But really, what I would love is to, one, stop eating so much candy, um, but really to just start looking at foods as foods that are going to fuel us. I think is so important. It would eliminate a lot of the issues that we have in society. But I do want to point out also, and you were talking about school systems, and I haven't touched on this, and I would really like to, is that really synthetic dyes, and the OEHA report even pointed this out and found this to be true, that there are certain populations that are more impacted than others. And so whenever you go into a low income area, they're going to have less opportunity to have the Trader Joe's, the Whole Foods, and they're going to have less resources to purchase swaps like this. So really, a lot of people like to make the argument that the synthetic dye thing is like an elitist thing, but really this is more of a human rights thing than anything, because for we created To Die for the documentary not because we wanted our son to live in this dye-free world. Like, our kid lives a really good life. Like, we provide for him. He has everything that he needs. He enjoys his life. He loves what he eats. But we created To Die for the documentary for like the students that I taught whenever I was teaching. I taught in an inner city school. Some of my students didn't have mattresses. Some of my students, their parents were illiterate. Like, and so to say, okay, I expect that mom to have personal accountability. You need to figure out that your child has a synthetic dye allergy, and then you need to accommodate for all those things. So you need to pack all the lunches. You need to pay for that. You need to send your own snack swaps. That's not fair. And she's never going to do that. Our doctors had never even heard that synthetic dyes can cause neurologic issues. Why do we expect, you know, everyone to know that? And especially people in poverty, when you have less resources, you have less access to healthy foods. Like, these are the people we need to be protecting. And we really believe that synthetic dyes have no place in school systems. And so that's why we've advocated for that. There's really no excuse. And even if it's just impacting a small portion of the population, which the science is suggesting that it's a pretty significant portion, but they're worth protecting. And every child that in every single school, there's children that are impacted, and we believe that they need to be protected.
And we also get a little pushback about, well, really the foods that have synthetic dyes are not foods that people should be eating anyways, which, that's true. Like Whitney was saying, like the ultra processed food, the more you can step away from that, the better. But you gotta meet people where they are, right? Like she said, there are food deserts, and there are just a lack of information. People assume if the government allows this food to be on the shelves that it's healthy, I mean, honestly, that's really how it should be. You like foods that can hurt your body and do all these crazy things to you really shouldn't be, but that's just not the way it is. So we look at it as, synthetic dyes are the perfect gateway into like looking at what you're eating. One, because they're easy to identify. They have a very, especially in the United States, they have a very, very specific way they're listed. They have to have that color and the number on the label. And so you can identify them. So once you kind of get into that rhythm of turning everything over to see if it has synthetic dyes in it, almost naturally you start looking at all these other ingredients that you don't know how to pronounce or you've never heard of, and it's just kind of a natural gateway into healthier eating and knowing what you're eating and what you're putting in your body. So like, and it's also such a big part of our story. Like, obviously, not every kid is impacted by synthetic dyes, and even kids that are, not all of them are impacted as dramatically as our son. But we felt that this was put on our plate for a reason. We were meant to share this and to get this done. And I think it's becoming a talking point because it kind of has become political. You know what I mean? It's kind of become like, well, now this is a Republican thing, so I don't. So
It's a people thing.
it really is a bipartisan thing, and it really should be. It's just it's an unfortunate side effect of what's going on. Um, so there's a lot of like, well, dyes aren't really that important. What about all the other stuff that's way worse than dyes? And we get that. We're not claiming that synthetic dyes are the only reason that kids are being affected is because of synthetic dyes. And if we
But it's a
remove them,
great start.
yeah, if we remove them, everything will be better. We get that. This is our lane. This is where we were put, and so like I said, we feel like it's a great place to start, and it's a great way to start a journey of understanding what you're eating.